India's government is prepared to identify, find, and take back all of its citizens living illegally within the United States. Sources familiar tell Bloomberg that 18,000 people have already been identified as part of a proactive step to avoid a trade war down the line. And India is just one of many countries adjusting to the next 4 years of America First. In France, President Emmanuel Macron said in a speech that Trump's return means Europe and NATO need to, quote, wake up and get less dependent on Washington for defense. In Canada, the Calgary Sun, the newspaper there, called Trump's inauguration a taxing situation. In Spain, another newspaper, Ara, published a front-page editorial in English under the title, God Save the World. And in the UK, the Daily Star warned readers to strap in for the Orange Man baby, so help us God. The Star is a tabloid, by the way, in the UK. Joining us now, the New York Times diplomatic correspondent, Michael Crowley. Just want to make sure that everyone knows it's not like the Times of London is saying that on their front page. Michael, it's good to have you.
Thanks.
The world was certainly preparing for this. I know Joe Biden went on a tour saying America is back, but there was anxiety and hesitation among world leaders that his return was temporary and that we could go back to Donald Trump or something like it here. That has now happened. So what is the reaction? What's the most notable reaction you're seeing?
Katie, thanks for having me. And you're right. In fact, I think that there was more of a conviction overseas that Trump was going to return as president than there was in much of the United States, certainly in much of Washington. I think world leaders for years have been preparing for this possibility, to them, in many cases, likelihood, and have been formulating strategies and contingency plans for this. So I think it's not a shock to most world leaders. And, you know, part of what's notable to me is the degree to which, you know, you do see some commentary, particularly editorial commentary, not from governments, saying this is a crisis. Trump is here. Everybody panic. And Emmanuel Macron is obviously reacting to the reality of Trump's rhetoric, in which he insists that Europe must do more to carry its own load in its collective defense. Trump believes that America is relied on too much by the Europeans. But in general, I think what you're seeing around the world is a strategy of really flattering Trump and adapting to the idea that you're, you know, as much of the case within the United States, among parts of what used to be called the resistance that is not as vigorous, among business and even some members of Congress, business leaders and members of Congress who say we have to work with this guy. You're seeing foreign leaders basically flatter Trump and say that they're prepared to do business with him because I think they realize that fighting against him hasn't gotten them anywhere. And to some degree, he feeds off of that kind of conflict. And my closing thought on that point is if you look at Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, you know, Ukraine is in a lot of trouble. If President Trump cuts off some or all of American support to Ukraine, they are in deep trouble in their war with Russia. But Zelensky is saying very positive things about his willingness to work with the incoming president. And I think that really captures it.
And interestingly, we heard Donald Trump talk about Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, negatively for the first time, I think, ever. He said he was ruining Russia. That was a surprise.
Katie, that was unusual and surprising. He virtually never, if ever, says anything critical of Vladimir Putin. But, you know, in the full context, I didn't see it as a sort of an indictment of Putin. It might have come out harsher than he meant it, because I think what he was trying to say was that he wants this war to end, and it doesn't make sense for Russia to keep fighting against Ukraine because it's putting such an incredible drain on Russia's economy. You know, tens of thousands of Russians are being killed. So I think he's kind of priming the table for the argument that there needs to be a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. And of course, that end goal that Trump has set, many analysts argue, is inherently favorable to Russia because Russia currently occupies about 20% of Ukraine. If there's a peace deal anytime soon, Russia's probably going to keep most or all of that land.
All right, Michael Crowley, really good to have you. Thank you very much.